Gaylor stared out from the window of his family's space station, the kind of private sanctuary only a few Zyraxians could boast of. These stations held special places in Tyraxian culture, personal havens to reflect, share, and explore away from the cluttered pressures of the inhabited worlds. To Gaylor, his family's station felt like a second home, something akin to a human treehouse. It was a floating testament to both his heritage and his father's adventurous spirit. Gaylor had spent countless nights aboard this station, lost in the stars and mysteries they held, but he was only 4 cycles old when he first learned about the most fascinating mystery of all, one that would stay with him for life. That night had started like many others. His father, Rethan, had taken him aboard to stargaze, though the sight outside was all but ignored when Rethan began tinkering with the station's communication panel, bringing its many complex controls to life. "Come here, Gaylor," Rethan called over with a wide grin. Young Gaylor watched with wonder as the control board's lights flickered, the sounds emerging from the speakers a faint, alien hum that grew stronger with each adjustment Rethan made. Then, at last, it settled into something resembling a melody, a sound unlike anything Gaylor had ever heard, vibrant yet distant, like a whisper from another world. "What is that?" he asked, captivated. "That," his father replied, guiding Gaylor's gaze to the stars, "is music from a people called humans. They live on a small planet far from here, out in the Orion Arm." Gaylor's eyes widened, the weight of Rethan's words settling in. "How far?" he managed, his voice awed. 226 light-years away, at least," Rethan said, his voice quieter now, almost reverent. "The Federation's best receivers can only just pick them up. Most of the galaxy hasn't heard of humans at all." He paused, listening to the faint, rhythmic tune. "They're a mystery, an unsolved one." That night marked the beginning of Gaylor's fascination. He was drawn to the idea of humans, distant, unseen, yet familiar in some primal way. Over time, he learned that his father's fascination with humans wasn't something widely shared among Zyraxians. In fact, the Federation itself actively discouraged it. The government tolerated many forms of exploration and knowledge-seeking, but humans were an exception, a shadowed curiosity. As Gaylor grew older, he would sometimes ask Rethan why the Federation harbored such hostility toward a species it had never met. Rethan would sigh, often giving Gaylor a cautious look. "The Council fears what it doesn't understand," he explained. "Humans, they're not like us, and I suppose that frightens them. Humans are omnivores, even hunters." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Our ancestors were prey to larger carnivores for generations. It's a fear deeply rooted that some say we've never quite left behind." Yet, despite the unspoken dangers of indulging in such curiosity, Gaylor found himself drawn to the broadcasts that occasionally trickled through. There was something undeniably mesmerizing about the human music and voices, stories of a people unlike any the galaxy had known. He started to view it as a forbidden window into something richer and more profound, a secret shared with his father, a quiet rebellion against the restrictive views of their government. Over time, the allure grew. Gaylor's life continued with the mundane rhythms of study and early work, but he often found his mind drifting back to the nights on the station, the faint hum of human music accompanying the stars beyond. Those nights were like a quiet ritual, one that bonded him to his father in ways he couldn't quite explain. But as the years passed, he couldn't shake the feeling that this secret might one day lead him to a dangerous crossroads. One evening, Rethan's voice, usually calm and steady, held an uncharacteristic excitement as Gaylor returned from a long day of work. "Gaylord," he called from the station's viewing deck. The young Tyraxian could see the gleam in his father's eyes, one that usually accompanied a new discovery. Rethan turned the holoscreen towards him, showing a grainy image of a small, foreign-looking spacecraft. Gaylor's breath caught. "The Council's propaganda may deny it, but the truth always finds a way," Rethan whispered, a triumphant note in his voice. "It's a human ship, Gaylor. They're real. They're out there." For a brief moment, Gaylor felt a surge of joy and validation. His father's quiet faith, their shared secret, it was all coming to light. But with the thrill came a chill of apprehension, a hint of the consequences to come. They were no longer alone in their fascination. The galaxy would be watching. And the Federation, with its deep-seated fear of the unknown, would do everything in its power to bury this truth. Gaylor had always known his father's fascination with humans was rare. But as he matured, he realized that it was more than just unusual, it was dangerous. The Federation Council actively discouraged any mention of humans, warning of their carnivorous nature and potential threat to the fabric of civilized space. This hostility was rooted in a long-held fear shared by many species in the Federation, the dread of flesh-eaters. Even so, Gaylor found himself captivated by humans, entranced by their music and the faint, disjointed broadcasts that made their way across the stars. One evening, as Gaylor and Redhan shared another quiet moment aboard the family station, he asked, "Why do they hate humans so much, Father? It's not like they've ever even met them." Redhan looked at his son, a knowing smile tinged with sadness on his face. "It's not really the humans, Gaylor. It's what they represent, an old fear, one the Council keeps alive because it helps them control people." Rethan's eyes shifted to the communication array. "They remind us of what we once feared on our own worlds, back when we were prey." The Federation's anti-human propaganda ran deep. Council broadcasts painted humans as violent predators, lurking just beyond the stars, eager to devour and destroy. Every news program, every bit of cultural messaging, was colored by a fear of the unknown and the carnivorous. Other factions in the galaxy, the Galactic Republic and the Democracy, didn't share this viewpoint. They were openly curious, investing in expeditions and searching for proof of Earth. But the Federation, wary of any influence from beyond their borders, used every resource to stop those efforts, even threatening their own citizens with punishment for attempting to seek out this mysterious species. Despite his father's warnings, Gaylor's curiosity grew. In secret, he would listen to the garbled transmissions, trying to decode words from the human language. Their songs had a depth he couldn't find in his own culture, melancholy and hope intertwined, rich with a history and feeling he didn't fully understand but yearned to. It was as if, with each song, he felt a part of himself connect to something larger, something forbidden. The secrecy surrounding humans only added to the thrill, and the quiet rebellion it represented bonded Gaylor and Redhan even closer. But as the Council's grip tightened, cracks began to show in the Federation's control. Whispers surfaced of protests on various planets, with citizens questioning why the Federation would go to such lengths to suppress even the mention of this mysterious race. Gaylor began noticing subtle symbols on public walls and in messages passed between people, discrete marks or colors known only to those who had listened to the human broadcasts. It was a silent, shared knowledge, and for the first time, Gaylor felt he wasn't alone in his fascination. Yet, the Council's paranoia grew. Increased security sweeps and monitoring patrols now scoured the Federation planets for any sign of human sympathizers. Gaylor's father cautioned him more frequently, urging him to remain discreet. "Our knowledge is a gift, Gaylor, but one that could cost us everything if it's discovered." Rethan's words lingered with an intensity Gaylor had never seen before. "The Council fears that those who listen to the humans might become infected by their culture." As the conflict around humans intensified, Gaylor couldn't shake a feeling of impending change. He had heard of recent attempts by the Democracy and Republic to launch a joint mission into the Orion Arm to locate Earth itself. Rumors said the Federation was furious, going so far as to sabotage the efforts of even their closest allies. It was clear now, the Council feared that if Earth was found, their power would be at risk. The pressure to conform had seeped into Gaylor's daily life. Working at a hardware store on the city's edge, he fielded suspicious glances whenever he spoke too fondly of the unknown or mentioned anything to do with humans. His employer, a gruff old Taraxian named Vran, had made his opinion clear. "You want to keep this job, keep your head down and mouth shut. Trust me, you don't want the Council interested in you." But Gaylor had already made his choice. On the family station that night, his father approached him with a grave expression. "Gaylor, there are rumors that they found something," he said softly, barely above a whisper. "Some say it's a transmission from a human vessel that crossed into our quadrant. It's only a rumor, But it might be the proof everyone's been waiting for. Gaylor's heart leapt at the possibility, even as his mind raced with the implications. What will happen if it's true? He asked, though he already sensed the answer. Rethan's gaze hardened. If the council confirms it, they'll do everything they can to bury it. But if others find out, they won't stand for more lies. For a moment, silence filled the station, the hum of distant stars the only sound. Gaylor felt both exhilarated and afraid. His whole life had been shaped by these whispered tales of Earth and its unseen people, yet he knew that revelation would come at a cost. Now, for the first time, he understood just how high that cost might be. The discovery, when it came, shattered the uneasy calm across the Federation. Gaylor had just arrived home from work when he noticed an unusual excitement in his father's expression. Redhan sat at the console, his hands trembling as he adjusted the frequency dials on the family station's communication array. "Look at this, Gaylor," he said, his voice barely containing his exhilaration. On the holographic display, a fuzzy image flickered to life, a small, unrecognized ship bearing strange markings, with characters in a language Gaylor couldn't read but immediately knew. Beneath the image, a message scrolled in bold letters: "Humans are real." Gaylor's heart thundered in his chest. The reality of humanity, once a whisper among friends and family, was now undeniable proof. His mind spun as he processed the revelation. Humans, the cryptids of the Federation, the carnivorous threat, were no longer just a distant song or faint broadcast. They were real, and they had finally reached out across the stars. Gaylor glanced at his father, who wore a wide, unrestrained grin. "It's true, son," Redhan murmured, his eyes shining with a fierce pride. "They exist, and they're closer than we ever thought." That night, their station became a place of celebration. News of the human contact spread through Taraxian space like a supernova, sparking joy and curiosity among sympathizers. Pro-human factions gathered in secret, jubilant over the hope that their long-hidden obsession might finally lead to an understanding between their species and the humans. But while Gaylor's family and their allies celebrated, the Council's response was swift and brutal. Within days, the Council's media outlets flooded the Federation with warnings, labeling the humans as dangerous predators with a twisted history of violence. News anchors, usually calm and collected, appeared visibly shaken as they relayed government-endorsed statements. The Federation faced an existential threat. "Humanity is a carnivorous menace," the broadcasts claimed. "A species that rose from a world of war and survival, a world of blood." The Council painted a dire picture, one where humans posed an immediate danger to every planet within reach. As tensions mounted, the Council ordered crackdowns on any pro-human gatherings, labeling them treasonous acts of solidarity with an enemy species. Protests erupted across the Federation, and Gaylor began hearing daily reports of friends, neighbors, and even strangers who'd vanished, taken by Council agents for merely questioning the anti-human rhetoric. His family became more cautious, abandoning their gatherings and listening to human broadcasts in hushed whispers only within the safe confines of their station. But it was the call to arms that marked the true descent into chaos. The Council formally declared war on humanity, citing their existence as an imminent threat to Federation security. The galaxy held its breath, stunned by the rapid escalation. Reports circulated that the Federation had already begun launching preemptive strikes, and rumors hinted that captured humans were being taken as slaves, a grim and savage twist Gaylor found sickening. For years, he had heard the mesmerizing songs and voices of humans through those fragile radio waves. Now, his own government was treating them as nothing more than prey. The divide in the Federation widened. Massive protests swelled on the capital planets, and in every city, clusters of Federation citizens gathered in defiance of the Council's orders. For Gaylor and his family, the once welcoming Federation had turned hostile, its every corner now monitored for signs of dissent. Returning home one evening, Gaylor noticed the anxious glances exchanged by his family, each one bracing for the arrival of government enforcers. The weight of fear was suffocating. One night, as Gaylor returned from another tense day at work, he saw his father's face creased with worry. "Gaylord," Redhan said, his voice a mere whisper, There's no safety here for those of us who don't believe the Council's lies. Galen nodded, feeling the burden of his father's words settle over him like a shroud. He knew their only option now was to continue in secret, to hold fast to their belief that humans were more than the Council's propaganda. And then, one evening, came a knock on the family station's hull. Gaylor opened the airlock to find a figure shrouded in shadows, a Federation Navy officer, her gaze steely yet filled with urgency. She stepped forward, her voice barely more than a breath. "You must come with me," she whispered, her eyes flicking nervously as if they were already being watched. "We don't have much time." Confused but feeling the gravity of the moment, Gaylor followed her inside. "Who are you?" he asked, trying to piece together her sudden appearance. "My name is Lyra," she replied, her voice low and urgent. "I'm here on orders from your uncle. He's been a silent ally in all this, Gaylor. We're going to the humans." Stunned, Gaylor felt his mind race with the weight of the impossible mission unfolding before him. The woman continued, her words a fierce directive. "Bring the station's communication array. We need proof that there are those among us who value the humans. It's our last chance to show them the Federation doesn't speak for everyone." As he processed Lyra's words, Gaylor felt a flicker of hope bloom amid the terror. The Council may have ignited a war, but he now had a chance, however slim, to show the truth. Without hesitation, he turned back, feeling a new purpose solidify within him as he prepared to embark on the most perilous journey of his life. Gaylor felt the urgency in Lyra's voice as she laid out the mission stakes. She explained how his uncle had secured a barely sanctioned shuttle, hidden in a desolate Federation outpost. It was ready to break out of Federation space and aim directly at human-controlled territories. "The Council won't wait, Gaylor," she murmured, her gaze steely. "They're preparing to strike humanity with everything they have. We're the only voice that can tell humans there are Zyraxians who oppose this madness." Together, they prepared the station's communication array, its wires and gears now transformed into an instrument of hope. Gaylor and Reton carefully transferred recordings of pro-human protests, encrypted statements of sympathy, and a collection of human broadcasts into the datapad Lyra handed them. Gaylor marveled at the delicate interface, knowing it contained the voices of his people calling for peace. His father looked over his shoulder, a hint of pride in his voice. "We've been listening for so long," Reton said softly. "Now they will hear us." Yet Lyra's briefing soon took a darker turn. She explained that Federation intelligence had intercepted human signals but made an error. The Federation assumed the human broadcasts were only a few decades old. "But the energy signature," she explained, eyes narrowed, "shows these signals are from at least 130 years ago. Humanity is far more advanced than we estimated." The room fell silent. Gaylor realized the consequences of this miscalculation. For years, the Council had spun tales of humans as primitive predators, violent but containable. Now, Gaylor saw the true scale of humanity's reach. "If the Council triggers them, humans will be fully capable of retaliating," Lyra warned. "They have fleets, alliances. We've grossly underestimated their strength." This knowledge only fueled their urgency. Gaylor packed a few belongings and took one last look around the station, the place that had shaped his beliefs. Lyra had already activated the shuttle, preparing its stealth systems to avoid detection as they slipped past Federation patrols. His father's weathered hand squeezed Gaylor's shoulder, a final act of reassurance. "You carry our hopes, Gaylor," he said quietly. "When they look at you, I want them to see the Zyraxians who believe in peace." As the shuttle's hatch closed, Gaylor felt a pang of fear. He and Lyra were heading straight into the unknown, carrying a message that could change the fate of both their worlds. But as the shuttle detached from the station and entered the vast expanse of space, his resolve deepened. The stars stretched endlessly before them, shimmering like a promise, a reminder of the history he and his father had glimpsed in the human broadcasts. Once they were safely out of the station's range, Lyra opened a console, bringing up navigational data and maps that displayed the nearest known human territories. "We'll make contact as soon as we're within range," she said. "We have no idea how they'll respond, but if we show them this, She gestured to the datapad. They might listen. Galen nodded, his hand steady as he took control of the console. He adjusted the ship's trajectory, plotting a course toward human space. As the shuttle glided forward, Gaylor reflected on his father's dream, that the humans they admired from afar would one day recognize the Zyraxians who saw them as more than a threat. Lyra leaned back in her seat, her expression guarded yet hopeful. We're running against time, Gaylor, she said. If the Council initiates a strike before we make contact, the humans may not wait to listen. Hours passed in tense silence, punctuated only by the hum of the shuttle's systems. As they neared the Orion arm, Gaylor activated the communication array, setting it to the human frequencies they had always listened to. He sent a carefully encrypted signal, a plea filled with fragments of human songs, Tyraxian voices speaking words of peace, and his father's voice introducing him, as if bridging the galaxies. Humans, the transmission began. We are Zyraxians who believe in you. We are not all what our leaders have painted us to be. We come with messages, stories, and a desperate plea. Please listen. He sat back, holding his breath as the signal disappeared into the void, carrying with it their hopes and fears. For what felt like an eternity, there was only silence. Then, a flicker appeared on the console, a response, distorted yet unmistakable. Lyra's eyes widened as the message materialized, stark and direct. Identify yourself and your purpose. Gaylor's heart raced. The humans had heard them. He looked at Lyra, who gave him a steady nod. He leaned forward, preparing his reply, knowing that the next few words could shape the destiny of their worlds. My name is Gaylor, he began, his voice firm. And I come with proof of our loyalty to peace. We are crafted to understand, not to destroy. Please give us the chance to show you. In the quiet hum of the shuttle, they waited, knowing that whatever happened next would determine not just their fate, but the fate of an entire galaxy caught on the edge of war and hope.